We will start off this morning with Morgan State University head coach Fred Farrier. The Bears fell to Florida A&M this past weekend and will head down south to Bethune-Cookman on Saturday. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Good morning, Ron. How are you?
I'm fine, Coach. Talk about last week's game versus the Rattlers as it came down to the wire on both sides of the ball.
I think for us, it's been a process as we try to get better every week. I think we're doing some things better, but still making mistakes at critical times of the game. For the fans, it's great to go back and forth, but for us as a coach and for me as a head coach, it's just not acceptable when you don't find a way to hold on to the lead at the end of the game. Our team has to continue to mature and learn to do things correctly all the time. I think our offense played a little bit better. But we gave up some big plays at critical times on defense. And, we're going to continue to coach through that. Football is a game of ups and downs, and you got to find a way to overcome the negative things that happen to your team in a football game, and we did not do that. So, as we go back to the drawing board, we got back to practice last night, and, as we head into the rest of the week looking at this next game, we'll make our corrections. We'll do our best to make sure we got the right kids in the right spots, and we're asking them to do things that they can execute to the best of their ability. And, we're going to keep pushing and keep demanding that they believe in our process and believe in our program. And, they're getting better. But we got to find a way to play for 60 minutes. Football is a game where 2 or 3 plays could affect the outcome of a game, and we have to overcome those big play opportunities for our opponent, in those small number of plays throughout the course of a game. We're going to keep coaching it. We're going to keep developing our players, and we're going to keep coming to work with a great attitude. Our kids have been phenomenal through this process. They can see progress, and, we just got to become consistent. Our execution has to be more consistent, and, when we get that done, we'll hopefully be able to come out on the win column. But our kids are working hard, and we're going to keep trying to figure it out.
And speaking, when you mentioned the process and seeing some success you've had during, your process building, just talk about how do you respond to the players. Obviously, they don't go as fast as you may want in some instances. But what is your take on just when they do grow? Is it positive reinforcement, or you have other ways of getting your point across?
I think there's a number of ways to do things, and in today's society, so much of coaching is negative. Whereas a coach, a lot of times, the only thing you see is what they do wrong. So you're constantly correcting, and so many of today's kids take correction as criticism, so they don't respond to that very well. So, for us, we try to find a way to get some positive reinforcement in there to get them to a point where they are chasing the positive reinforcement and trying to do well because, they want that positive reinforcement. And we do a number of things with our guys, on the field, off the field, and how we coach them. So our kids have, through this whole process of being 1-7, have had a great attitude. They can see the different opportunities and the different times when there's things that we can correct. Most of our mistakes are fixable. They're physical mistakes. They're assignment mistakes. They're alignment mistakes. They're things that, if we lock in and we pay more attention in meetings, or we work a little harder at practice and we get a couple more reps and we get some mental reps in practice when we're not actually in practice, those are things that we can fix. So, we're going to try to get some positive reinforcement in there. We're going to get it communicated the way we need to communicate it so that they understand it and keep trying to find ways that they can be successful. I think a big part of coaching is really just staying away from the things that your kids can't execute. And so many times as coaches, we like things that, our kids may not be able to execute. So just as we try to figure out what our team is good at, we got to do a lot of that, stay away from the things that they don't do well, and make sure we're putting the kids in the right spots. But, we're going to use positive reinforcement. We're going to do some things to, be excited at practice and come out with a great attitude and a great mindset. And, nobody really enjoys the process. Everybody across the country talks about the process, but the ability to go to practice, to fly around at practice, and to embrace the process of preparation is something that young kids have a difficult time with. Nobody wants to go sit in the library and study for 5 hours and leave with a smile on their face because they're prepared for their test. Well, that's essentially what practice is, for a couple hours a day. You got to put in this work and you got to get in that grind to get ready to have the success and to make it fun on Saturdays. And you know, in a 20-hour week that the NCAA allows us, 17 hours of that is preparation. So you got to go in there and you got to grind 17 hours to get the 3 hours of fun on game day. So, you know, trying to get our kids to understand that and push through that process and embrace that process of preparation is really where we are. And our guys are trying to adapt to it. It's a change in the mindset, and we're going to keep pushing it, and our guys are getting better every week at it.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the line for questions from the media.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. You will hear a 3-tone prompt to acknowledge your request. If your question has been answered and you would like to withdraw your registration, please press the 1 followed by the 3. One moment, please, for the first question. Our first question comes from the line of Mike Klingeman with the Baltimore Sun. Please proceed.
Coach, have you decided yet who's going to start at quarterback against Bethune-Cookman?
We have not. You only had 1 week of practice, which is really a correction day. We'll get into the meat of what we do today and tomorrow and Thursday, and then as we go throughout the course of the week, we'll make a decision.
Maybe you should do what Bethune-Cookman does and rotate them in and out.
As we watch film, you know what, I'll take a look at that and see if we can use their process, and maybe that'll help us win a couple more games.
Does that mean I'm on your staff now?
Absolutely. I always enjoy your questions, Mike. You on top of all of it.
And for the record, I enjoyed studying for 5 hours in the library for a fun.
There's that small number of people who do embrace the process of preparation, and we got to find more of those kids in our program.
Well, I'm too old for your program. How's Jack Franklin? Is he going to play this week?
You know, we're not sure. He's got a high ankle sprain, and you know, I think right now they're projecting him to play. You know, it's one of those. It's like the lowest grade that it could be. So, you know, we're gonna rest him up early in the week, and then we'll see what he does later in the week.
You really can ill afford to lose him, can you?
We really can't afford to lose anybody. You know, our depth. I think every team in this league. You know, your first team is pretty good, and then you know the teams that have depth are able to sustain what they're doing. But you know, it's a mentality of we'll prepare who's ever ready out there, who's ever ready and able to go. We'll prepare them and get them ready and see what they can do.
It's got to be frustrating to roll up over 900 yards total offense in the last 2 games and lose both of them.
You know, football is a game of being prepared and able to execute in all 3 phases of the game. You know, early in the season, our defense was playing really, really well, and our offense was struggling. And, you know, you can go back and be in the woulda, coulda, shoulda, and all of that. You know, if I could take these last 2 games and match them up with Towson and Albany, we might have won those 2 games. So, you know, we got to find a way to make sure our kids understand we got to execute for 60 minutes in every game. As coaches, we got to figure out how to do the things that they can do and put them in situations to be successful and just continue to get them to grow. You know, whatever the numbers are, they weren't good enough because we came up 3 points short this week and whatever number of points short last week. So we got to punch the ball in the end zone. We got to make our field goals. We got to get the ball in the end zone when we get in the red zone, and we got to keep getting better. You know, we can find a way to get one more stop on defense, one more big play in special teams, or one more score on offense to overcome the losses, and that's what we got to figure out how to do. You know, I think our team is close. You know, they just got to have some successes to truly believe in the process. You know, today's society is a environment where everybody needs immediate gratification, and again, like we kind of has been the theme of this call for me. You know, not many people are embrace the process of preparation and to where they're not worried about the outcome and to where they're most concerned about doing their best at every opportunity that they get. And that's where we're trying to get our team, you know, and when you get older, you can understand that, but when you're 17, 18, 19, 20, it's a little bit difficult to understand if you're not having the rewards on the back end because everybody wants a pat on the back. And, you know, it's everybody gets a trophy society versus winners and losers, and we're training leaders, we're training husbands, we're training dads, and in the things that they do, you know, every week they're not going to get a pat on the back when it's time to go pay the mortgage. You're not going to get a pat on the back when it's time to go pay your car note. You're not going to get a pat on the back when it's time to pay your electric bill. So, we're going to push through the tough times. We're going to make sure our guys understand there is light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to continue to get better, and we got 3 opportunities to show that starting this week with Bethune-Cookman.
You're starting to sound like Papa Bear Earl Banks.
These last few weeks with the dedication of our legacy plaza and, people talking about Coach Banks and people talking about Coach Hurt, it's really been an honor and a privilege for me to even sit in the seat that I sit in and follow behind those guys. This is a special place, for me to learn more about those guys every day, and to even have you or anyone even talk about me in the same breath as those guys is really flattering, and it's not really something that I deserve right now. We're going to keep working our butts off to dig our way out of this 1-7 hole. We're going to make our alumni, our fans, and our administration proud of this football program, and we're going to return this program to greatness. It's just a matter of time. It's going to come in short order. We're going to keep working our butts off, and we're going to be something to deal with here in the very near future.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Trevin Jones with the Howard University Radio. Please proceed.
Coach Farrier, greetings to you this morning, Coach, and I won't take up too much of your time. Staying in the same vein that you're talking about with society and your players, talk about the growth and development of the Bears. This hasn't been an easy season, and I mean, dealing with a season like this and looking forward as you prepare for the Wildcats. Talk about what you've seen in the growth of your players.
I think one of the things that's been really big for us, Trevor, and I appreciate the question, that's been really big for us is our guys have just week to week, man, coming into practice have just maintained a great attitude. These guys come in here, they're trying to take the coaching, they're trying to believe in our process, and they come in here even being 1-7, ready to go to work. They're listening, they're attentive, they're paying attention, and they're really trying to do and execute what we asked them to do. Football is a process, and a lot of times the process takes a couple years, and when you start hearing coaches talk about how you build, in the beginning when you're kind of changing the mindset, you lose big, then you lose close, then you win close, then you win big. And for us, we already had the big losses this season. This past weekend was one of those close losses. So even in one season, you can see the growth to where we're accomplishing some of these things in the same season. So now hopefully we can find a way to get one of these close wins. And then hopefully by the time we get towards the end of the season and getting into next season, we can become consistent in our execution and find a way to get some big wins. But, our guys have not given up. Our guys are coming in here watching film. Last week, going into a game at 1-6, we probably had more kids in our program coming in here watching film and doing extra and trying to figure out what it was going to take to make us successful than we have the entire time that I've been here. So we're getting there. We just got to find a way to get some success on the field to where those guys can completely believe in what we're doing and just embed the mindset that we're going to find a way to win. And when that happens, I think it'll be something special, and we're going to keep busting our butt as a coaching staff. I'm going to keep busting my butt as a head coach to figure out how to get that done and get us to that point as quickly as possible.
Our next call this morning comes from Tallahassee, Florida, as we talk to Florida A&M head coach Alex Wood. The Rattlers defeated Morgan State last Saturday and will host Howard University on Saturday afternoon. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Ryan, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, Coach. Last week, Coach, you're pretty familiar with this script. You faced a fourth-quarter comeback, and you came out in the win again. So just talk about last week's game in terms of how your team persevered.
Yeah, Ryan, it's always good to have a winning result when you go play a game, obviously. And we changed some things in terms of being able to play a game that with not as many penalties, obviously, and killed drives, as we have in the past. So we were able to turn that around Saturday and to our advantage, obviously, and we were pleased with that part. And then obviously, we were pleased with some of the explosive plays that we were able to generate offensively in the kicking return game. We still have some work to do on preventing some explosive plays, from a defensive perspective. But I thought that our kids played hard. They were in the right gaps when we called defenses, obviously, but just have to do a better job, obviously, of finishing on plays.
And speaking of explosive plays, each week you have a different wideout step up, and this week is Chad Hunter. Just talk about his performance last week.
Yeah, no, Chad. Chad's having a good year. Obviously, he's had some explosive plays in previous games as well, and he's playing a position on our team. Obviously, that as we attack certain schemes, he ends up being the go-to guy. So it was all good, and he's obviously come through in those situations when we've gone to him. He's made plays and come up with some big plays. So that's encouraging and obviously, that's an important aspect to being able to score points and have explosive plays on offense.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. We have a question from the line about Trevin Jones with Howard University Radio. Please proceed.
Coach, how you doing this morning, Coach?
Good, Trevin. How are you?
I'm doing well. The Rattlers seem like they always show up at the right time for you, if I may say, Coach. And I say that because, I know you had some ups and downs throughout the beginning of the season, but it seems like the team found the groove. Do you think that the team has grown and found their niche as far as the offense and the defense is concerned?
No, I think our kids are improving, each and every week. Obviously, you play different opponents, which create different, challenges for you, from a scheme standpoint and, obviously, ability standpoint. But no, I think our guys understand without question, what we're trying to get done. There's no question about that. It's just a matter of going out and doing it consistently each and every game.
And now you're facing the Bison this weekend, or making a trip down to Tallahassee.
Yep.
They have many weapons in the go-go offense. I'm talking about Kalen Newton and then Anthony Filio, and they have Kyle Anthony, one of the receivers. I know you've seen all of this. What have you seen of the Bison that strikes you as being interesting, as without giving away any secrets, as you plan your attack?
No, they've got good personnel without question. Obviously the quarterback is added to that tremendously, because I think a lot of those guys were there a year ago, except for Kalen, and so obviously the addition of Kalen has made a difference. It's created a spark for them, obviously, and that's a good thing for their program. Mike, obviously is a good coach and evaluated the talent that's there and is putting those guys in a situation where they can make plays for them.
And when a lot of coaches always bring up the three phases of the game being key to being able to pull off a victory with defense, offense, special teams, do any one of those areas? Do you think any one of those areas could be key over the rest in a game like this that you have coming up?
No, I think that thought process and that is still true. That if you win two of the three phases, your chances of winning are pretty doggone good, and that's always going to be an emphasis, I'm sure, on their part as well as ours, is to try to dominate your opponent. And if you can do it in all three, that's a big plus. But two of the three for sure.
Great. And then my last question, Coach, talk about your quarterback situation. How strong are you at that position? And how have your quarterbacks developed for you over the season?
Yeah, Ryan, again had a good showing last week. Early on he had some mishaps, obviously, with ball handling and security, obviously, but that happens, and we're always addressing that for sure. But he threw for 280 something yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's a good that's a good day's work at quarterback, for sure. And obviously the turnovers are something that we always address. But I think in terms of him running the offense and being able to help us create the explosive plays and being stingy with the ball, I think that was all good on his part.
Next up, we have Bethune-Cookman head coach Terry Sims. The Wildcats defeated Hampton this past Saturday and will remain home to host Morgan State on Saturday in Daytona. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
I'm fine, Coach. Last week it was a roller coaster game in terms of the score and the emotion. So just talk about the contest against Hampton and what did you experience in the closing minutes?
I think, first and foremost, you got to take your head off to Hampton. Coach Maynor and his guys, they did a great job. They came in and, they got down early, but they continued to fight. And I think that the game was back and forth for the last quarter and a half. And we had a few miscues on offense, and we allowed them, some opportunities to get back in the game. And being a good football team, they took advantage of those opportunities. We ended up stopping them again and getting the ball back, but penalties started, taking yards away from us. So we actually had a touchdown call back because of a holding call, and I ended up having to punt the football. And they did a great job driving the ball down the field. And once again, we had to rely on our field goal block team to come in and save the day, and they did just that. And they missed the field goal, and we came out on top.
And speaking of your defense, once again, you played at a high level as you held Hampton to 267 total yards. Talk about your defense in terms of what is their overall strength and in terms of when they're on the field.
Well, I think, our defense is obviously strong against the run. We had some issues early on in the year. We had a few new guys playing, and they had to kind of get used to what we do and the way we do it. But I think now you can look at our run defense and say that that's the strength of our defense right now. Not that our secondary and our coverage is bad, because I think those guys are playing well too, but our run defense is probably the strength of what we do right now of our defense. But all those guys are playing well on our defense, and we have some guys that are stepping up that are new to the program, but they're definitely stepping up and contributing to us winning football games right now.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone keypad. We have a question from Luke Williams with Black College Sports Page. Please proceed.
Good morning, Coach Sims. How are you?
Good morning, Luke. How are you? I'm good.
Not bad. How is Ryan asked you when you started about your mentality as you came down the stretch, but 4 games in the conference decided by 4 points or less. How's the stress factor?
Well, I don't know if it's really a stress factor that we can really talk about, because we're just going to continue to play. I know we've had a lot of close games, but if you look at a lot of the games in the league, they've been close. We've had a lot of close games in this league overall this year. That just says something for, the coaching job that's being done in this conference, and the type of athletes that we're going out recruiting, because everyone's playing good football right now. But, it's not really that stressful. We have some moments where we wish we would do things a little bit different and not, put ourselves in a hole. But I have to, give it to our guys. They didn't quit. They have not quit on us, and they'll continue to prepare to win games.
Is this as tight a league as you've seen in your time, not only as a head coach, but your time in the conference?
Yeah. I think,
or is it pretty much like this every year?
Well, I think this year is really tight. It was tight the year we had the 5-way tie. Yeah, so that was another tight year. But this year, you can look at all these football teams, and you can see a lot of good football being played. And that's in all 3 phases of the game. Everyone, I think, is doing a pretty good job of preparing their teams and putting their teams on the field and allowing them to play football.
I got a couple more, Coach. Did you said you relied on your field goal block team? Did somebody get a hand on that field goal attempt against Hampton?
It looked like Delwan Beard did. Like it wasn't a lot. It looked like it hit the side of his hand and went wide left. You can't really tell a lot on the team on the film, but either way, whether it hit him or not, we rushed the kick and we rushed the kicker, and the ball went wide left. So I'm good with the outcome. Whether he hit it or not, it ended up working out in our favor this time. We finally got the ball to bounce our way.
Okay. Last question for me, Coach. Akivius came in against A&T and threw that pick, but you still put him back in this game late, and I know you had the TD call back. You just intend, and not trying to give away anything, but you intend to use both Brim and Williams as you go down the stretch.
Yeah, we have a 2-quarterback system, and kids are gonna make mistakes, and we're not gonna bench a kid or not play a kid for making a mistake. He know he made the mistake, and he's working every day to make sure he doesn't make those mistakes again. Each one of those guys have a different skill set, and they bring something different to the offense. So yeah, they'll continue to play until we finish this thing out.
Let me say that. Let me ask you this, just a follow-up. Is it a particular thing you look for when you determine who you go with? Is it a different look? Is it just the point of the game, regardless of the score, regardless of what the previous quarterback has done? Is it do you have a system that you want to keep secret?
No, it's not a secret. Our offensive coordinator, Coach Suber, he has his whole game plan scripted out, and each one of those guys, they have a list of plays. So, and they're both capable of managing our entire offense. But Larry does some things better than Akivius, and vice versa. So, we have different plays for those guys. They may run some similar plays, but we both get together, Coach Suber and myself, and we'll make sure that we have plays that each one of those young men likes, because when they're on the field, they're running the show, and they have to be comfortable when they're out on the field.
I guess my question is, no matter how hot one of them may be, you're going to play the other one. That's basically the philosophy.
Yes, we are. And I'm not a fool. Now, if one of them is in the game and he's taking us up and down the field, let's just, be as honest as we can about this thing. We're going to let him go until we see fit. But, the plan is, yes, to still play both of those guys.
Hey, we are now joined by Delaware State University head coach Kenny Carter. Delaware State fell to North Carolina Central this past weekend, and we'll head down south to Savannah State on Saturday. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Good morning, Ron. How are you?
I'm fine, Coach. Talk about last week's game at Central, as basically the game came down to a pair of several explosive plays.
You're exactly right. It came down to really three drop coverages, and it's a shame. Youth. I wish there was youth and inexperience. You could have a drink that you could take and heal it, but unfortunately, it doesn't happen. We basically got ourselves in situations where we had one of our corners went out. Young guy has to come on the field and played very little, and he dropped the coverage, and they took advantage of it. And credit to them. When North Carolina Central runs the ball 40 times and rushes for 123, average 3 yards a carry, you're doing a good job of stopping the run. You just got to not let explosion plays, and we had a critical turnover that gave them great field position, and they scored right after it. So just little things that are hurting us, and Savannah State suffers the same things that we do, and you watch them play. It's mirrored situations, but the teams that consistently can put it all together and take advantage of opportunities, those are the teams that are going to win. So until we can grow up and mature and gain that experience, we won't get the results that we want until those things happen.
And being around young teams throughout your coaching career, could you explain how sometimes you got some teams when they're back against the wall they perform, but we deal with young players and something goes negative. Talk about trying to get them back to understand that the game was not over.
It's really a matter of, like you said, it's just experience. Repetition makes the master, and so when like we had the South Carolina State game, we started out with the lead, and we kept the lead. The game got tied, but we never got behind. So it's a different mentality for them. We get in the Central game and we get behind early. Then when we got ourselves back where we were in the game, then we drop a coverage and something happens, and so you just kind of keep battling. But if you watch the game, our kids don't stop playing. They keep playing. It would be different if we were physically just being outmatched. That's not the case. We're making too many mistakes that are a byproduct of just inexperience. A more experienced team doesn't do some of the things that we do, and it's part of the process. So when 85% of your team is freshmen and sophomores, you just got to live with it. It's not fun. It's not fun at all, but it's a reality.
And Coach, talk about your special teams for you, because they rank atop the leaderboard in several categories, most notably your kicking and punting units. Just talk about their role in being consistent throughout this season.
Well, we're very blessed to have really good specialists, and I've done special teams the majority of my career, so I think it's a big deal to me, and I personally run the kicking game. It gives me an opportunity to coach and not just be a head coach that just kind of oversees. I like to actually be involved in it. So we try to do a lot of things to create a lot of issues for people and them having to kind of deal with it. But and it also we try to use it to gain field position. We have a fantastic punter. I mean, I think he's number 2 in the country in FCS, who can place the ball a lot of different places, and he changes the feel. And then our kicker hasn't missed a field goal, knock on wood, this year. So you just try to get every phase to be the same.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. We have a question from the line of Lute Williams with Black College Sports Page. Please proceed.
Good morning, Coach. How are you?
I'm good, Luke. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. You came out throwing the ball and kind of stuck with throwing the ball the game. Talk about why you particularly employed that kind of philosophy and how you think your quarterback Black did.
That's because we've had success throwing the ball the last couple of weeks, and we really love our receivers. We think we've got some really good receivers. They'll go get the ball. It's just, and because we're beat up in the offensive line, we have after our third game of the year, we lost 7 players for the season, and 3 of the 7 were offensive linemen. So our right side is 2 true freshmen. And so when you have that, you have to kind of make a decision about what is the best thing for you to do. So run blocking in our league, we run the ball okay, but run blocking in our league is tough because we got good players. But it's easier for those guys to pass it. It's a strength of theirs. So that's probably a little bit why we decided to do that. And then some of the things that we've thrown, we've had success with it.
And you played both Black and McDaniels. Talk about how you think they perform.
Anytime a quarterback turns the ball over, you're not very happy about that. Keenan struggled a little bit at times, and I think a little bit of it was just trying to force some throws. And then Jack came in. Jack struggled last week, which happens as a true freshman a lot. But he performed pretty well and had a couple of deep balls. I think he had over or close to 200 yards passing. And not that many attempts. So we think that they're continuing to grow. Both of them are Keenan's a sophomore, but he's really a freshman when it comes to game experience at the position. So we're playing with 2 freshman quarterbacks. But again, like I said, we have receivers now that go after the ball and have made some really good catches over the course of the season, and they'll just continue to get better the more those guys gel together.
Have you found that your team likes to play, you threw it 49 times. It's kind of a wide open style. Do kids like that style as opposed to the kind of more balanced or grounded out kind of style?
I think a little bit of it had to do with how the game was going, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that we could get quicker strikes to get ourselves back in the game, and then at the same time, some of the throws that we made were no different than it being an extended run, because they were either check down throws or quick game, which is no different than if you just ran the toss. You know what I mean? So it's all relative. When you look at statistics and you see the number of times that you threw the ball, it's really a little bit, it's relativity, because what kind of throws were they, you know?
Black and McDaniel going to stay kind of 1-2, or do you anticipate maybe changing the order?
Well, we changed the order. Keenan started the game. Keenan started against Central. Now, he won the job from the South Carolina State game, so he started the game. And going into the next game, he'll start again at Savannah State. So we'll just continue, but we're going to continue to play both guys, because if something happens, heaven forbid something happens, you have to have a backup that has some kind of experience. So we're in a process. You know, we're close in a lot of games, and we had opportunities to win games, but we don't win it. So you're building a foundation and you're building experience. So we're forced to have to play both guys, because if we don't, then you're at the very bottom again, starting from zero, and we just can't afford to do that if we want to continue to try to build a program.
Got you, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Our next question comes from the line of Trevin Jones with the Howard University Radio. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach, greetings to you this morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Trevin. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Coach, I always ask you about your running back whenever we talk, and Eileen, and being one of them. But then I never asked you about Gross. Is it Gross or Gross?
Trey Gross. Trey Gross.
Trey Gross. Where did you find him, and did he surprise you this season?
He's a walk-on. It was about he's a walk-on. He won't be a walk-on when the season's over, but he's a walk-on right now. When he walked into my office probably about a month before it was time to report to camp, and I mean he's a big, good-looking kid. He's physical. He's strong. And when we watched his film, you saw him make all the plays that he's making. He's got great vertical. He's got great ball skills. He's tough. He's hard to tackle. But he still has some refinement that's going to come on. After a year in the weight room and just continuing to learn how to be a more refined route runner, he will be a very, very good player in our league. So we're really excited about him and happy that he fell to us like he did.
Well, and the reason I asked, Coach, is I didn't get to see him until the Howard game. Got to see him up close, and he was almost, to me, in my opinion, he was a mirror image of the opponent that you had faced that week in Kyle Anthony. And Kyle Anthony being a sophomore at Howard University. Trey's only a freshman. Is he one of the, weapons that you think will help you actually turn the corner as your team's developing? Because you're always talking about you have sophomores and freshmen and the team developing and growing.
I completely do, 100%. I mean, Fatu Sewell-Godet has been a solid player for us at receiver. Selby has been a solid player for us at receiver. You throw Trey in there, and then we have another young man that is redshirted that is going to be just fantastic. He's a lot like Trey. He's just an inch taller. That is just going to be fantastic. So we really do think that Trey has given us a spark that we did not have in the passing game. You know, when a ball's thrown in his direction, our kids expect for him to make the play, whether it's in the game or in practice, and that's really good. That's what you want when kids practice, play like they practice.
We will now head to Washington, D.C. for our next call as Howard University head coach Mike London joins us. The Bison are coming off a win over South Carolina State this past Saturday and head south once again to face Florida A&M on Saturday. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning. Good morning. How's everyone doing?
We're fine, Coach. Last week, your team jumped out to an early lead and was in cruise control for a few minutes. But then things changed, and you had to hold on for dear life at the end. But your defense came up with the big stop. So just talk about last week's game and what stood out from your perspective.
Yeah, it was, you're right. We did start out early with 21 first quarter points. And then, they did a great job. I mean, they're a well-coached football team. They came back, in the end. I do believe our defense played stellar. They did a great job with the short fields that they had at times, turnovers that occurred. They created turnovers, but also, just had that bend but don't break mentality. Again, the credit goes to the coaches and the players who again, in the fourth quarter, just find a way to just win. And that's been the kind of the rallying cry for us, thus far. But it was their homecoming. There were a lot of things you can control, a lot of things you can't control. But I'm very proud of the effort and the ability to focus those last few minutes. I mean, they had the ball on the 2-yard line with a chance, to tie the score up, and it took them 4 plays, and the last play being broken up, and we were able to run the clock out. But Coach Pough has done a really good job, with his team. They're always competitive. They're always in games, and like I said, it was great for us to come out of on an away game with a conference win, and we're doing a lot of firsts that have never been done in a long time here. We just want to try to continue to keep playing, to have opportunities, as the season starts to end. But very thankful for the win.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. We have a question from Trevor Jones from Howard University Radio. Please proceed.
Good morning to you, Coach London. How you doing this morning, sir?
Doing good, Trevor. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Hey, Coach, talk about the Buffalo Soldier defense. You just did refer to them in the goal line stand. I guess you could say it's a goal line stand because they were at the 2 and had problems scoring. They're developing because you have different players that step up at different times. Am I correct?
Yeah. Coach Brown and the defensive staff have done a really good job of, implementing. We are a 3-4 defense, but we also will transition into a 4-3. We'll move in a 3-4. We'll drop 8. We'll play a 4-3 defense, and we'll slant and angle. So, there's a lot of things that we try to do to keep offenses off track. But the biggest part is we've improved in terms of executing the assignments. And you're right. We've played a lot of freshmen. There's been guys that have come in. Demetrius Buggs is a guy that hadn't played, but played in this game and did a great job, special teams wise, and added to some opportunities on defense. So, we're ever evolving, but at the same time, we're improving, and we just got to keep going. When you have the ball on the 2-yard line and you keep them out of the end zone, that's a pretty big deal. And my hat goes off to the defensive coaches and players for executing that.
Awesome. And the reason I asked that question, Coach, is you're about to face a quarterback in Ryan Stanley. I think he's second in the conference as far as his passing average per game, per yards. And then you have Devin Bowers, a running back. What have you seen of these two gentlemen? And without giving away any secrets, how do you plan for them, if you do plan for individuals?
We always talk about trying to identify the who and the what that you have to be concerned at, and know, and there are 2 names, as you mentioned, that stand out. The QB has a 64% passing rate percentage. Thrown for almost 2,000 yards. 14 TDs, and the running back is a size running back. He's strong. He's elusive. He's averaging. He catches the ball in the backfield. He runs it. I mean, he does a lot of good things. So, you don't necessarily hone in on just 1 or 2 things, but you also want to recognize who's a guy that can start everything, and who does he distribute it to. So those 2 players you mentioned are good players, and they got a bevy of players that are that are fast and athletic and can stretch the field. So, we're going to have to play really sound defense, keep the receivers in front of us, and try to apply pressure to this quarterback.
And I'm glad that you said that, Coach, because I know a lot of people always, when they're talking to you, they focus on the offense, and rightfully so, because it's an excellent offense. But I was more interested this time around to see how you would deal with even Ryan Stanley and his targets like Brandon Norwood and, I guess, Chad Hunter, the two receivers that FAMU has that are doing pretty well. The growth, speaking about the offense, speak about the growth of the offense and how they're gelling together.
It's part of the development. I think when our quarterback, Kalen Newton is, he's a freshman, but he's not like he's had to earn his keep. And at this point, he's done a lot of really good things for us, and some things he continues to need to grow and develop on. But we have some guys that are in the lineup that allow him not to just to be one phase or one dimensional. With a guy like Anthony Farrier or receivers that we have with Ezra and Kyle Anthony. So. There's been opportunities that you look back and you scratch your head. We scrambled in the game one time down in the red zone and threw it to the end zone and threw an interception. When you're down that close, you don't want to do that. You want to throw it away because you got perhaps point opportunities with a field goal. So he's learning as the season goes on, but he's becoming a better student of the game and a distributor of the ball. So we continue to just keep trying to find ways that we can accentuate the positives of what each player has and develop the game plan off of that.
And my last question, Coach, and I apologize for not monopolizing your time, the conference race. You're one of three teams with only one loss in the conference behind A&T with no losses, and you don't play A&T. Do you pay attention to that, and do the players pay attention to that, or is it just next game up?
Well, I'd like to sit here and just say it's just next game up, but we're all human, and human nature is you look and see who's got the losses and all, so be candid, be honest with you. Yes, you look at it, but looking at that has no effect or bearing on how you have to prepare for the next team or what you have to do, to win your game. So, obviously, everyone looks at that. You see where you are, but as I said last week, these are a series of one-game playoffs, and so now we're into the second game of going into our final three games of a one-game playoff series. Because if you win, then you still have an opportunity. If not, then you're still playing for things that you haven't experienced over the last couple of years. But our mindset is this is another a playoff game for us. It's an away game. It's their senior day, so they're saying goodbye to a bunch of seniors. It'll be an emotional game for them as well. So. Those are the things that we need to focus on, and all the other stuff will take care of itself, at the end of the season.
Norfolk State University head coach Latrell Scott now joins us this morning. The Spartans fell to Savannah State and will return home to face North Carolina A&T State on Saturday. Good morning, Coach.
Hey, Ryan, how are you?
I'm fine, Coach. How you doing?
Hanging in there.
Coach, first of all, our thoughts are with your program for what took place off the field last week. If you can, just talk about trying to get the team to focus on the football aspect of the game on the field, even though we know there are things other than football that's on their mind.
Well, I think, they're a tough, resilient bunch of young men. Obviously, we're all going through a tough time. Again, I struggled a little bit last week, tried to get the guys ready to play. We came out and played solid, early in the game and probably just didn't have enough gas to finish the game. But you can't make excuses for anything. I applaud our guys for just, coming out and having the fight in them to try to play for as long as they could.
And this week, you're back at home to face North Carolina A&T State. As you're still in the conference race, as a win would definitely keep you in position for a late season move. Just talk about the Aggies and what you've been able to observe our film so far.
they're better than advertised. I haven't had the opportunity to go over and watch the offensive side of the ball as much as I have the defensive side of the ball, but I don't know if they have a weakness on defense. Their defensive line, is talented enough to get pressure with a four-man rush. I think they've got one of the better secondaries that you've seen in a while in our conference, and their athletic, their linebackers are as athletic as the day is long. When you do look at them offensively,
they have the ability to line up and run the ball pretty much any way they want. Not many teams running, power and ISO in football these days, and you can do it if you're better than people, and that's what those guys are doing up front. So we've got to put together a game plan as a staff and execute it as a team, to try to give ourselves an opportunity to hang into the game and give ourselves a chance to win at the end.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. We have a question from Lute Williams with the Black College Sports page. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach Scott. My condolences on the situation with the kid. When did you find out? When did the team find out, and how did you deal with it?
I found out Friday night. Later in the at night, probably Friday night about 10 o'clock, and we let the guys sleep through the night, and we informed our team about it at about 8 o'clock, and we just tried to do the best that we could do to give them a little bit of time to calm down and get ready to play.
Did some of them or many of them, or had they already heard about it?
No, they didn't know.
Really?
No.
Yeah. How tough was that? Have you faced a situation like that before?
We had a kid that passed away this summer. So it's our second one. Obviously, when Dashawn Simpkins passed away this summer, he was at home in New Jersey, but never dealt with anything kind of on campus like this. And again, your heart goes out to both families involved in it, because at the end of the day, both young men involved are our kids. So it's a tough situation for a lot of people involved.
Was there any thought of maybe not playing the game, or is that just too much other stuff involved to really cancel it based on that?
I think so. It was never really a thought. You've got a lot going on, and a lot in place, and I don't really know the protocol that comes into canceling a football game. I've had one game canceled, for a different circumstance, but at the end of the day, the kids wanted to play, and they thought they had enough energy to get out there and play. And we tried to play. You have to credit Savannah for doing what they did, make plays to win the game.
Our next question comes from the line of Donald Ware with Fox 2 Row. Please proceed.
Hey, good morning, Coach Scott. Definitely thoughts and prayers are with you and the Norfolk State family.
Thanks, Don.
Juwan Carter, can you kind of talk about his play, how he's played overall this season?
Juwan's done a tremendous job, to be a true freshman quarterback and come out and have some success. He's gotten better on a weekly basis, and doesn't make a ton of mistakes. I think he probably threw his first interception all season this week. Very careful with the football, gets the ball out of his hands in time, which helps our offensive line. So I can't say enough about him. And the greatest part of Juwan is that he's got 3 more years to get better.
You sort of maybe, you and the staff maybe expected this from him, considering what he was able to do in Richmond with a couple of state championships. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I've known Pough since he was in 9th grade, and kind of watched his progress, and we were thrilled when he decided to commit to us early. We have another freshman quarterback at Trip Harrington, and we had a ton of confidence in both of those guys. But once everything kind of settled, Juwan's a natural leader, and he's very unfazed by a lot of things. So the success he's had and the progress that he's making, doesn't shock me at all.
What are your thoughts on A&T's quarterback, Lamar Raynard?
It's amazing to watch his progression. I remember when he was in a 2-quarterback system, and they handed the ball off to Tariq a ton, but kind of threw it to the 2 big wideouts. But he's much improved. I mean, he's a legitimate quarterback, and he's able to sit back there and pick your defense apart, and he's athletic enough to scramble. So that's another great case of just maturation from a quarterback, and obviously they're doing a great job as a staff to put him in a good situation. But he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league now.
Okay. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Ty Miller with SBN Sport. Please proceed.
Coach Scott, good morning to you.
Hey, Ty, how are you?
I'm good, Coach. you did not let the players meet with the media following the game this past weekend. Have they had grief counseling, or is that on the agenda for what's going to take place in the future?
Yes, they have. We had counselors available, and we had a team session on Sunday, and we've offered additional team and individual counseling, for our guys. The other thing that I don't want to do is force counseling, amongst these guys, because everybody handles different situations differently. But everything that these guys have needed has been available, and they were much better when I met with them this morning than they were when I met with them on Sunday. So it's going to be a process, but at the end of the day, we let these guys know that A&T's coming to town this weekend, and we got to kind of pick ourselves up and get ready to go.
Hey, Coach, just about what you just said just now, do you think that once you get between the white lines on this weekend, that will be the solace that the players need to help to deal with the situation?
Well, I think last Saturday, was therapeutic for them. Obviously, they were, somewhat distracted and didn't play as well as we hoped they would play. But I think like all of us, when you get an opportunity to get out to practice or get out to a game and kind of release yourself and do something that you enjoy, it definitely helps in the healing process.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Stephen Gator with HBCU Game Day. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach Scott, how you doing?
Good, Stephen. How about you?
Doing well. Again, thoughts and prayers out to you and the guys. You guys have, you've taken out North Carolina Central, and now you've got North Carolina A&T, kind of the other team that's been, in charge in the MEAC the last couple of years, coming into town. Talked about Renard. But, you got to get to him, to get some pressure to him. And there's a big guy standing in his way, number 70, Mr. Parker. Just talk about the challenges that a great offensive lineman like him presents for you guys as you're trying to game plan and how you kind of game plan around somebody like that.
Well, I've been in the MEAC 3 years now, and Brandon's been here all 3 years. So I hope that this is the last one that he has left coming for Coach Broadway. But, he's big and he's very talented. The thing that we have to do is we have to try to, do some things confusing. If you just sit there and try to rush, Brandon Parker's not going to happen. He's too talented, he's too big, and he's, too long. So I think what we're going to have to do up front is try to do some things to make those guys guess and then put them in some situations. And, the other thing you got to do is you got to find a way to get them behind the chains and then put them in obvious passing situations, when they can, run the ball and mix the ball and let, Lamar do some of the things that he's doing with the football. They're as tough as anybody to beat. They're already talented, so, we can't help them, and stay comfortable.
We're now joined by Hampton University head coach Connell Maynor. Hampton fell to Bethune-Cookman last week and will return home to host North Carolina Central on Saturday. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Ron. How you doing?
I'm fine. How you doing, Coach?
Hanging in there, man. Hanging in there.
Coach, talk about last week's game as your team battled back from an early deficit, but they put themselves in position to win the game late.
Yeah, Ron, normally we get off to a fast start and we get a lead, and happened exact opposite this week. We got behind 14-zip. 8 minutes left in the first quarter. We was down 14, so complete 360-degree turnaround from how we've been starting. But, our guys didn't quit. We kept fighting. We withstood their homecoming rush and their best punch and got back in the game and took the lead in the third quarter and had the lead into the fourth quarter. And we gave up a drive there, 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they went ahead. And, then we drove it back down late, got it to the 11-yard line, and took one shot at the end zone with the fade and didn't execute it, and then we tried the field goal to send it overtime with a chip shot, and we just missed it, and he's human. I told Adam it's not his fault that we lost the game. It was a whole bunch of plays in between that play and that kick that we could have executed better and helped us win that football game. We had guys drop balls, we had quarterbacks miss reads, we had people miss tackles, and we had a kicker miss a kick. He's human just like they are, and it wasn't his fault. And we fought hard, and we just came up a little short. You got to take your hat off to Coach Sims And Bethune, they got a good football team. He's doing a great job, and they had a better team Saturday.
And despite what took place last week, your team is still in a hunt for the MEAC title. What do you say to them in order for them to forget about what took place last week and focus on Central, who's coming in this week?
Yeah, man, it don't get any easier. You got Jerry Mack. He can run for mayor in North Carolina and win right now. But, you got 3-time defending champs coming in, and we have to play better than we did last week, that's for sure. The games are just getting tougher and tougher, man. You got North Carolina Central coming in, and they're hungry. They're still in the race. We're still in the race. And we just got to execute and try to get it done, man. But they got a great football team, offense, defensively, and special teams. There's no quitting this team. No matter how many points they're down, they can come back, and they're probably the best fourth-quarter team in the league. So we have to be ready to play and be ready to play for 4 quarters because they're going to be ready.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. Our first question comes from the line of Stephen Gator with HBCU Game Day. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach Maynor, how you doing today?
Doing good, Stephen. How you doing?
Good to hear from you. So, you got the law last week. You got North Carolina Central coming in. Obviously, you know a lot about North Carolina Central, having gone to A&T and being from North Carolina. Just talk about the challenges that this current North Carolina A&T team, North Carolina Central team presents. There's no Bell, but Chauncey Caldwell's making plays and things like that. Just talk about what you've seen out of this new team. Is maybe a little bit of a different wrinkle from the past couple of teams.
Well, it's pretty much the same. The quarterback is a little different, but they still do the same stuff. He's not trying to reinvent the wheel from what he's been doing in the past. They do the same things on defense. They're going to get after you. They're going to play cover 1 and cover 0 and a little bit of 3, mix in a little 4 there, but they're going to play man most of the time and make you make a play, and they're going to put pressure on you. They think it can stop you up front. They got great guys in that front 6, front 7 that can get after you, and they quarterback, like you say, Chauncey, he's probably more of a runner, but he can throw the ball. And then you start got Totten. Totten has almost 600 yards rushing, and they got a backup behind him that's just as good as Totten. David Miller has over 300 yards receiving. I think Murphy has over 500 yards receiving. So they're very dangerous. They're a very dangerous offense. They're still trying to put it all together, but they can do it on any day. They did it last week against Delaware State, who has a good defense. So that offense is good, and that defense is their bread and butter. Hunter leads the team in tackles, I think, with 55, and O'Neal has like 43 tackles. They got some players back there. Reynolds has like 45 tackles, and leads the team in interceptions with 4 interceptions at the safety position. So those guys are very talented, and they get out there. Hunter's a beast, man. I think Hunter might be one of the fastest players in the league. I see this guy running down running backs, wide receivers, cutting off angles. He's unbelievable. And so we have to play our best game to the date if we want to have a chance to be competitive and pull this thing out, because they got a very, very talented team, and they're very good, and they're 3-time defending champs. They got a lot of champions on their team. They know how to win, and ain't no quitting them. So it's going to be the toughest game of the season. We have to play very well, but we'll be up for the challenge. We look forward to it.
And just talking about that, the end of the schedule. No disrespect to the teams you played earlier, but did you let those guys know that as the wins accumulated, as the season went along, that it was going to get tougher? And do you think that they understand that now, maybe a little bit after last week?
Well, we've been talking about that, and we understood that your next game is the biggest game because it's the next game, but as you continue to win, the games is going to get bigger and bigger. But what's happening here is the games are getting bigger and harder and tougher because we had the toughest part of the schedule here at the end. But like I said before on these calls, this league is pretty tight from top to bottom. So It didn't matter who you was playing when. You better be ready to play. If you're not ready to play, you're gonna get beat. You can get beat by Savannah. You can get beat by anybody. So it didn't matter who you was playing and where you was playing them at. You better be ready to play because you have a dogfight every week in this league.
Appreciate it, Coach. Thanks a lot and good luck.
Yes, sir. No problem. Appreciate you.
Our next question comes from Trevin Jones with Howard University Radio. Please proceed.
Coach Maynor, respect all, fear none. I think about that every time I talk to you, Coach. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Coach, just one question. With this upcoming contest, both teams, September 21st to September 23rd, 7 points have decided your games. And when I say that, I'm talking about Central and I'm talking about Hampton. What do you think will be key in this game? And even if you refer to the three areas, special teams, defense, offense, if any one of those areas will trump the other?
Probably special teams. It always does in close games. A lot of times there's so many kicks in a game, and if it's field position, shank punt, field goal, block kick, kickoff return to get you good field position, it's going to be special teams probably in the close game when teams are evenly matched defensively and offensively. It normally comes down to special teams, and it did last week, and it probably will this week too.
Our next question comes from Ty Miller with SBN Sport. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach Maynor, good morning to you. How are you?
Good. How you doing, Ty?
I'm good, man. In terms of your preparation for North Carolina Central this week, have you taken a look at what Norfolk State did with them early on when they jumped out on them 21-0?
Ty, I got that tape on right now, but I watch all of them, Ty. This time of the year when they got 7 games in. You got to watch 7 games. Week 2, I only had 1 game to watch or 2 games to watch because that's all they had on tape. But, when you get to this part of the season, you try to watch them all, see what that team was doing early, see who they was playing early, see what players they had playing early, see how they was playing then and how they playing now. Are they making any kind of adjustments, what teams are trying to do to them? So it comes in, Ty, I definitely I start with the last game, and I go all the way back. So I definitely look at the Norfolk game. To see what they was doing and how they try to attack them. But I kind of had a good idea with Norfolk. I know how Central plays on defense, and I kind of thought that number 5 for Norfolk, we have a chance to have a big day against them because of the way they play. And that's kind of what happened. He had a big day against them and made some plays and helped Norfolk pull that game out.
Our 7th head coach this morning joins us from Savannah State in Erik Raeburn. The Tigers defeated Norfolk State last weekend and will return home to host Delaware State on Saturday. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Good morning.
Coach, talk about last week's game in Norfolk State as the team pulled away at the end for the victory.
Yeah, obviously real proud of the effort that we had out of our guys, and I thought particularly our defense played much better, particularly after that first drive. They went right down and scored on us, got in the end zone, but then from that point on, we allowed just a field goal, and certainly that was key to help our offense, give our offense some time to get clicking, and then offensively, did a really good job of running the football, controlling the line of scrimmage. Best our offensive line has played all season long, and so it's good win for us, good win for our program. I think it's been it's our first road win as a program since 2011. So yeah, it was we needed one bad, and our guys found a way to get it done on Saturday.
Well, last week, Coach, when it's 13-9 early in the fourth quarter after Norfolk's drive 17 plays for the field goal, and you turn around and unleash Davon Gibbons and Jalen McLeod, they took over that next drive. Just talk about their play on that drive, which basically put the game out of reach.
Yeah, both those guys had really good games, but excellent in the fourth quarter. We felt like Jalen's played well all season long. This game he really got this is the most carries he's gotten in any of our games up to this point. He made the most of them. But he
made some runs in that fourth quarter, that were really impressive. Made some guys miss, broke some tackles. We had some good blocking, but in that fourth quarter, he really ran the ball hard, and obviously we felt like Devon was a weapon, with his feet as well. But I thought he played really efficient, from a passing standpoint. He made some big throws when we needed them, and then obviously was really efficient with the football, and then added about 90 yards rushing as well. So those two guys, both true freshmen, they really came up big for us on Saturday, and particularly in the fourth quarter.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. We have a question from Lute Williams with Black College Sports Page. Please proceed.
Good morning, Coach. Congratulations on your first win this year.
Thank you.
When you look back on your close calls that you've had, which one of those probably, or was there a point in the season where you think the guys maybe turned the corner, or felt that a game you maybe should have won that helped you build some confidence?
That's a good question. It's tough to maybe pinpoint, the exact moment, but we did have a bunch of close calls early on in the season. Games we felt like, we were, 2 or 3 plays away from winning, and had opportunities and just didn't seize them. And so I think even though we were losing games, I think it didn't. Our guys still believed that we could be competitive and find a way to win the football games, and because we had chances to in the fourth quarter each week. So I never did feel like we laid down or kind of threw in the towel, or went through the motions out of practice. I felt like we played with great effort every week. Early on in the season, we just were making too many mistakes, to find ways to win football games. And but I think the Charleston Southern game. Obviously Charleston Southern's a good football team. They've been in the playoffs. I think 3 of the last 4 years. The last 2 years they were back-to-back Big South champs. And we went on the road to play them, and we had the lead in the second quarter. I think it was 20-17, and so I think that gave our guys some confidence that hey, if we come out and play our best, we can play with anybody, and so I think that helped a little bit heading into the Norfolk game.
Got you, Coach. What about? I know they had a moment of silence, but were you told about the situation with the Norfolk, with the team and with the kid that was killed? Were you told about that before the game? Did you talk to your guys about that?
I was told before the game. I didn't talk to our players about it. I didn't want to bring it up to them right before the football game, but I was made aware of it when we got to their campus. So obviously that's a incredibly difficult situation for their football team, and my heart goes out to them, and certainly it would have been it'd been really tough if that happened. It'd been really tough to go out there and play a football game. So I'm sure their hearts were and their thoughts were other places, and not on beating Savannah State.
Got you. Good luck, Coach, this weekend. Thanks.
Thank you.
There are no further questions at this time.
And Coach Raeburn, before we close out, just talk about this weekend's opponent in Delaware State, as it's somewhat similar to you in terms of being young across the board and had flashes of greatness on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, it's. I think it'll be a really tough matchup. They've been very good on special teams. I felt like, we have done much better. I think that's an area that we've improved on dramatically from last year. So this will be a tough battle for us to try and find a way to at least battle them to a stalemate on special teams, so they don't get such a big advantage on us like they have everybody else. And then, defensively, I've been really impressed with how physical they are and how good they are against the run. And obviously, the games where we have not run the football well, we have really struggled offensively. So I think that'll be a key matchup for us. And then for our defense, we have not played well against the run, and played a little bit better this past weekend. And I know they have had some struggles running the football. So, but they have an excellent running back, and so that'll be a key to the game as well. I think if they get their run game started, if we don't play better than what we've been playing, run defensive wise, that'll be a problem for our team for sure.
Our next call takes us to Orangeburg, South Carolina, as we welcome in head coach Buddy Pough of South Carolina State. The Bulldogs fell to Howard last weekend and are off this weekend. Good morning, Coach. How you doing?
Morning, Ryan. How are you?
Fine, Coach. Recap last week's contest to the best of your ability in terms of just talking about how your team battled back after the early deficit.
Well, we played Howard here this past Saturday, and we started off the game, I think maybe the second play of the game, with a turnover. Their first play from scrimmage, they ran a little razzle-dazzle deal and hit us for a score. They got the ball back and drove it down and scored again, and they got the ball back and scored again. So it was 21-0 with 4 or 5 minutes to go in the first quarter. From that point, we kind of scrummed around back and forth, and we got a couple scores. Finally got a block punt and got it down and got a field goal, and then we got a drive going and got it in just before the half. So it was 21-10 at the half. They got another drive going in the second half and got it 21-10. I think maybe we got a field goal, and then from there, we blocked the punt at the end to get within 8, and then drove it down to the 2 with no time to go, and turned the ball over on downs with little or no time to go. Couldn't get it in to get a touchdown to get within, I guess, 2. It would have been 28-26. At that point, we would have had to go for 2, but we didn't get the touchdown. So at that point, we ended up losing the game 28-20. Is anybody there?
Oh, Coach, talk about the bye week that's coming up. As how will you approach it with the team in terms of you're going to spend some time on the field, or you're going with rest?
Yeah, this late in the year, your bye week is it's kind of welcome. It's kind of a welcome relief. We need to have a chance to maybe heal up some and work with some of our younger guys. With our record being like it is, it's an opportunity for us to install, some of those guys that might be actually active on our roster, into the mix a little bit as far as being able to play some of the younger guys since, they look like we're going anywhere. So, that's kind of the deal. That's kind of our mission at this point, to try to see if we can figure out how to use the last 3 weeks. We've got 2 more games in the open week to improve this football team the very best we can, so that we have a leg up on the spring and going into next season.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. Our first question comes from Trevin Jones with Howard University Radio. Please proceed.
Coach Pough, how you doing, Coach?
Hey, Trevin, how you?
I'm doing well, Coach. Always appreciate talking to you. Coach, talk about the resilience of your team in that game, because they could have packed it in down 21-0 at the end of the first quarter. And then, I don't think they allowed Howard to score in the second quarter at all. I think it was until the third quarter that the Vikings could get it going again. I just wanted you to talk about your defense and the team as a whole and the fighting spirit that they had.
Well, the one thing that I can say about us all year is the fact that we would hang in a football game and possibly get an opportunity toward the end to win the football game. So, it was no different from the rest of the games we played most of the season. We seem to always find ourselves in 2-minute drill at the end of the game, trying to tie the game or try to go ahead in a way that will give us a chance to to get it done that way. But we need to try to figure out how not to get so far behind and get ourselves in these predicaments that that we're fighting for our lives at the end of these games. But I can say that the one thing that I can always depend on is the fact that these guys will fight until the very end.
And speaking of fighting, Coach, the last time I got to talk to you, we were talking about the third quarter, that crazy game against Morgan State with everything that was happening with the punt blocks and the safeties and all that. And in this game just passed, you had two block punts or a block field goal and a block punt? One punt.
I think it might have been a couple block punts. Yeah.
Speak on that. Is that something that's practiced? Does this team surprise you that they excel in that area, or was it something that's expected?
Yeah, well, they generally score more points these days than our offense does. So, we need to try to work on it because it's been a productive part of our, of our overall operation. When you're struggling the way we are, you're looking for points any way you can get them, and that seemed to be a way that we've had opportunities to maybe create something that way. So, we just kind of continue to work on it. Yeah.
And my last question to you, Coach, this being this late in the season, I know there's a couple more games to go. Is this a time of the year where you start planning for next season, or is it still the next game up?
Yeah, it's the next game up, too. You want to be respectful, of all the members of your team that have given their heart and soul, to the program that way. But at the same time, we do need to see if we can get some of those guys an opportunity to get some work in, some actual live game time work that may give them experience for the coming year so that we don't necessarily have to, go through this kind of situation again.
Always appreciate you, Coach Pough. Get some rest this week.
All right, Trevor. Thank you so much.
Our next question comes from Ty Miller with SBN Sport. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach Pough. Good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Ty. How are you?
I'm good, Coach. A couple of weeks ago, you spoke about being at the bottom of the pool, and it's been a long time since South Carolina State's been there. Can you speak about how that has been for you, and also about the cyclical nature of college football, how it happens sometimes?
Well, it's been a hard fall for us, and we've got to do everything we can to create situations that will give us opportunities to get better for the following year. So, our entire mission at this point is to figure out, how not to be here, in 18 or whatever that way. So, it's a tough deal, but at the same time, nobody's actually feeling sorry for you. Everybody knows, everybody's happy that you're there, and you better find a way to get yourself out. So that's what our mission is at this point.
Coach, it's also been a while since you haven't had, for the past couple of years, a bell cow type of a running back. So how key is that for the future of South Carolina State?
It's big, and we've tried, several guys, in that role, trying to find a guy that could be maybe, a bigger rusher, maybe 1,000-yard kind of looking guy, and that's just not quite happened. And it's been a combination of the fact that we hadn't been necessarily quite good enough up front, in the offensive front. You see a lot of things there that you don't recognize sometimes is what the heck they're trying to do. And, you put that together with some younger running backs that's kind of find their way. It's almost too many variables to keep all the together and going in the same direction.
And finally, Coach, one of the guys you coached against, Bill Hayes, is going into the Black College Football Hall of Fame in February. Can you give me a comment on him?
One of the best football coaches you ever saw. Coach was always, organized and dynamic in a way where he got his guys, to go extremely hard. I think his players loved him and played hard for him. And, he was, maybe one of the top guys in our profession for a long, long time.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, Ty.
Our next question comes from Luke Williams with Black College Sports Page. Please proceed.
You got an off week coming, Coach, and we working you harder than any other week.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I thought I'd be out of here by now.
But listen, I know your illustrious color man for your game, former basketball coach Cy Alexander, said you were very impressed with Kalen Newton, but you kind of stymied him in this game. Other than that quick when they jumped out, what did you see from Kalen Newton? And even though it's not surprising that your guys slowed him down, what did you do particularly to kind of confuse him or to limit what he was able to accomplish?
Well, I think we just played better, as we got a little bit better feel, for their style of play and the speed of their game. We changed our routine a little bit. We didn't necessarily, put ourselves in as many vulnerable situations after we got our finish burn a time or two early in the game. So, we got out of some of the looks that we were in and just kind of let our kids play a little bit, with a little bit sounder approach. And I think at that point, we got to the point where we kind of settled in and kind of gave ourselves a chance to kind of play in a way. They still got some, some big plays from time to time, but we were fortunate enough to, to be able to get them stopped at some point before they could get in the end zone.
What did you like? What do you like about him in terms of his skill?
Well, he's a gamer. He's a tough guy too, and when you get a quarterback, that you can see, understands conceptually, what he's trying to get done, and he understands exactly where all of his people are. Generally freshmen, they're trying to figure out, what the play is themselves, and when they can actually tell the rest of the guys, what to do, and be understanding of things, and then, be a guy that can run at you and stick his foot in the ground and make you miss. Got some shake and bake to him. Got some running ability. I think that kind of guy is the kind of guy that you can, pretty much depend on to develop into one of the best players that's been in this league in a while.
We're now joined by North Carolina A&T State head coach Rod Broadway. The Aggies were off last week and will hit the road to face Norfolk State this weekend. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Ron. How you doing today?
Fine. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Coach, I didn't see you on the boat this weekend, so I take it you was doing some football-related activities. But just talk about your bye weekend and how did your team and staff recharge their batteries for the final stretch?
Well, we practiced and we gave them a couple of days off, and of course, coach and staff went recruiting last weekend and got an opportunity to see some high school games and came back in here on Monday and went back to work trying to get prepared to play a Norfolk State team.
But before we go into Norfolk State, your team has been in this position before as you enter the final month of the season looking to make a run for a MEAC title. Do you draw on your personal experiences for them to understand what needs to be done, or you rely on some of your older players for them to lead the way for your younger guys?
Both, Ryan, we just try to take one game at a time, man. We don't look ahead. We try to stay focused on the now and, try to get ready to play the best we can this weekend. And, what's going to happen is going to happen. And, thinking about it or it's not going to help us in the least. What can help us is focus on trying to prepare for Norfolk State.
And speaking of Norfolk State, talk about the Spartans that they're coming off an emotional loss last week.
Well, I see two Norfolk State's team. I see one that's very dangerous, and you can see tremendous improvement. When you go back and look at the game, you can see tremendous improvement they've made. I think they're long up front, offensive line-wise, with pretty good feet. they're getting a hat on my hat. They have number 5 that can make some plays for them, who I think is a dynamic player. The quarterback, you can see the growth in him. And that's one of the things you look for as a coach as you go through. You can see the improvement that team's made, and Coach done a great job with that team. It may not show in terms of overall W's and L's, but as you look at it as a coach, you can see tremendous improvement they've made over the course of the year.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. There are no questions at this time.
Well, Coach, talk about one player in particular I've been meaning to ask the last few weeks is Jeremy Taylor. Just talk about his presence in your defensive front and what does he bring to the table?
Well, experience, build and make plays. Jeremy's a good player, and he's gotten better as time's gone by. We've had to play him at a couple of different positions this year because of injuries, and he's responded well, and he's one of our better players defensively, and he has a knack for making big plays for us, and hopefully he can continue to do that. But he's outstanding.
And then I'll switch back to the offense. Well, we'll stay on the defensive side of the ball if I go back to offense. Your freshman McCain, obviously he has the big first month with the 5 interceptions. Hasn't had the same production. Obviously, we would know why. So, from his perspective, instead of trying to chase stats, what do you have him focus on from this point?
Well, he had to, as a freshman, of course, fundamentals and technique. He relies so much on speed and instinct, and we wanted him to focus on fundamentals and technique, and he's gotten better. He's developing into being a good player, and before he's out of here, he's going to be an outstanding player because he can flip his hips, has good ball skills, and he can run like the wind. So before he's done, when he gets these fundamentals and technique down, I think he has a chance of being outstanding.
Hey, Coach, we do have one question for you. Hold on 1 second.
We have a question from Ty Miller with SBN Sport. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach Broadway. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Ty. How you doing today?
I'm good, Coach. Actually, Ryan just asked a question about Mack McCain because he's on that watch list for the Jerry Rice Award for the top freshman of the year. So you really actually explained what I was going to ask you about it. But thanks a whole lot for talking about Mack.
All right. Thank you, Ty.
There are no further questions at this time.
Coach, before we close out, we'll go to the offensive question I had. Outside of Elijah Bell at wide receiver, who else, especially during this home stretch, you expect to step up and cause pressure on opposing defenses at the wideout position?
Well, you have Chris Garden, I think, is an outstanding player, and he's close to breaking all-time record on punt returns, and he's a slot receiver for us that I think can make some plays. We have Ron Hunt, who's capable of making plays. We have Barr, we think is pretty good, and we think our running back, Cartwright is a good player. So we think we have a few weapons that we can use, and then of course Trey Scott, a transfer in here, has had an outstanding season for us. So we feel like we have a few different positions that can make some plays. We have a playmaker in Elijah Bell's a playmaker, and then we have some more guys that can make plays. And I think there's a distinct difference between the playmaker and guys can make plays. I think number 5 from Norfolk is a playmaker, but they have 2 or 3 more guys that can make plays for them. So, and that's what we have.
We will close out this morning's teleconference with our final head coach and Jerry Mack of North Carolina Central. The Eagles defeated Delaware State this past Saturday and will travel to Hampton on Saturday. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Ryan.
Coach, talk about last week's win versus Delaware State as your team bounced back into the winners column.
Well, I was glad to see our team kind of get back on track. I think we rededicated some things to being a little bit more focused at practice and a little bit more focused on game day, and I think it kind of led to our success on Saturday. Offensively, we did some really good things. Chauncey Caldwell, as a freshman, had a really good game. He showed some growth and some maturity in that game on Saturday. And Jason Murphy, offense, had one of the best performances a receiver has had since I've been here at North Carolina Central. Defensively, I think Devontae Reynolds came to play. He had another interception for a big play. And defense as a whole, defensively, we caused 3 turnovers. And then our special teams kind of got back on track as well. So just really pleased with the way in all phases of the game that we showed up and performed well.
And I wanted to ask this situation. It was in the third quarter when Delaware State went up, close to within 14 at 28-14. And that's when you hit Jason for that 70-yard pass. Can you just kind of take us through those sequence of plays that might have that led to that?
Well, we knew that Delaware State was very capable of scoring points. They had done a good job the previous week against South Carolina State. They came away with that win, so we knew they had a no-quit attitude. Our main focus, to be honest with you, at halftime was just to come out there after the half and continue to try to score some more points because we knew they were going to have a no-fight, don't-quit attitude. And, great job by Coach Carter keeping his guys focused and going out there and executing and putting another score and closing score within 14. But, Jason and our guys, they understood that, our goal was to continue to score as many times as we could touch the football. And we did a good job of Coach Taylor called the play. We saw some things earlier in the game that we felt like that could be open, and we protected it up, and we were able to hit a long ball down the field.
And this week, you head up this way to face a Hampton team you have not seen in quite some time. Talk about the Pirates from what you've been able to see so far in film.
Coach Maynor's done a great job of putting together a great staff, and not only that, a great group of players. They're very explosive on both sides of the ball. I mean, they have 2 running backs that I feel like are 2 of the better backs in our conference. They got 2 receivers this year playing at an extremely high level, and this quarterback has continued to grow and get better and better each game. You can just see the growth in their offense week to week. They're just constantly getting better. Defensively, they're never out of position. Those guys are always in position to be successful. They're in position to make some plays, and they have that knack for causing havoc. And their defensive line is playing really well this year. So just overall, it's not a lot of weaknesses in their football team right now. They're doing a good job of coming to play. The game last week could have actually been either way. I mean, it could have ended up being Bethune-Cookman's game, but it could have easily fell to Hampton as well. So I mean, those guys are really dangerous when we go over there.
Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the call for questions from the media.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to register a question, please press the 1-4 on your telephone. We have a question from Trevin Jones with Howard University Radio. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach Max. Greetings to you this morning.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Hey, Coach, a quick question for you. Your games have been close, I think, since September 21st. I think it's been by 7 points or less where the games have been decided. Is it a different type of team that can continue to win that way, or is there really no difference? And I guess I'm speaking about the character of a team always coming through in the close games.
Well, I think, it kind of caught up with us a couple of weeks ago against Norfolk. We waited a little too long to start playing, but just overall, our team really feels good about if the game gets to the fourth quarter, we feel good about our potential chances to win the football game. We've had a lot of close games this year, and I think that's just a testament to us being so young in so many different positions. We've been playing with a lot of different guys at the quarterback position, and then also defensively has been doing a really good job, though, of holding on and keeping scores down for us. So I think as we get better, I think the last probably 3 weeks or so, offensively, we've been doing a really good job of getting better, and I've seen some growth in our offense. Defensively has still maintained being a constant and limiting people from explosive plays and limiting a lot of points. So we are getting better as a football team, and I think that's one thing you always want to see in your team, especially as the season progresses. You don't want to see kind of a letdown or people start to give up more points or not be as productive on offense. So we are getting better, and I think in this last stretch, these last 3 games, I think that's what the key is going into the last month of play, is to try to figure out a way to get better each game.
And the reason I even asked about that is because this next game, I think all eyes will be on that game because it's two similar teams, and you've both been winning in the same type of fashion. And I don't know if you just referred to it. If I missed it, please forgive me. Is it a boost in confidence knowing that when you get into that fourth quarter, you can pull it out?
I think it's a confidence level that we have if that were to happen. We've been in those situations before, and anytime you've been in those situations before, you can always kind of grab some of those things that put you in those situations that allowed you to win games in the past. So I think that's the biggest thing that I see.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, Coach. Much respect to you, and good luck this weekend.
No problem. Thank you.
Our next question comes from Lute Williams with Black College Sports Page. Please proceed.
Hey, Jerry. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Lute.
I noticed what you noticed, that Cardwell appeared to be a little more in charge. Are you giving him more of the offense to run as the season has progressed? Is that what we're seeing, or is it just a matter of the number of reps and being comfortable in that way?
I think it's just a matter of reps, and his maturity has continued to grow over the weeks. We haven't changed anything in our system. We haven't limited anything for him. The same stuff that we're doing now is the same stuff that was there when he took over the starting job against FAMU. I think he's just seeing it better now as the weeks have progressed. And, this last game, and we take it game to game with Chauncey, because that's the biggest thing with a true freshman. They may have a great game one game, the next game they may come out and not be as good. I think the key is just to make sure you don't get too high, you don't get too low on them. You try to stay as even keeled as possible.
What aspect of that has he done best, in your opinion?
He's done a really good job of being more patient, sitting back there in the pocket. When you look at some of the throws that he made last week, he was really, really patient in the pocket. He allowed things to develop, and his understanding of where to go with the ball and ball placement was a lot better. And that's one of the things we've been really working with him a lot on, is just really understanding where to go with the ball and having a little bit more poise in the pocket. He didn't take off and run as much as he had in the past, and that's one thing that we was proud of him most about.
Gotcha. Okay, Coach. Good luck. Good luck against Hampton.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Ty Miller with SBN Sport. Please proceed.
Hey, Coach. Good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Ty.
Coach, Todd did not have the stats this past week, but he too is on the Jerry Rice Freshman of the Year watch list. Can you talk about him and his attributes and how he is as a player? Really good young man.
You're right. He didn't get a chance to touch the ball as much as we would have liked last week, but Darrell McClain did some good things. But Isaiah Todd has just been a rock all year. Whether it's on kickoff return or whether it's running the football, he's a very humble guy, very quiet guy, and he doesn't seem to get tired. That's one of the things the kids tease him about. He's like a machine. If we need him to go out there and return a kick and then go right back on offense to touch the ball 2 or 3 times, he doesn't seem like he misses a beat. So I think he's going to have a great career here in North Carolina Central. And I think, it's just one of those situations where last week he didn't get a chance. He didn't have a hot hand. Somebody else did. But, who knows what may happen in the weeks to come.
And, Coach, you seem to have a bevy of riches at quarterback, because last week Chauncey got a chance to sit and watch. How much did that help him? And how much, in terms of Ramadan, going back to the bench for the most part this week, what did you talk to him about?
We just talked to him about being a better teammate and taking some mental reps. He didn't get a chance to play as much last week against Norfolk, just for the simple fact Nail Ramadan was doing some really good things, and we decided to keep him in the game. This week in practice, he came out. Last week in practice, he came out, had a better week in practice. We said we was going to evaluate those guys over the Tuesday and Wednesday of that week, and he ended up winning the job, and he ended up going out there on Saturday and executing like he had in practice all week. And I think it's the same thing this week. We're going to do the same motto is going to be, we're going to evaluate those guys on Tuesday and Wednesday and see kind of who performs the best with the game plan. I think every game plan is maybe a little bit more specific to different people's needs and different people's skill set. So if he does a good week, he'll be the starter on Saturday. If he's not, we have more than enough confidence in Nair Ramadan to go out there and execute the game plan.
Hey, finally, Coach, after the loss the week before, did the team have a fresh approach, in terms of just coming back to try to reestablish what had been happening prior to that loss?
I think so. I think that anytime you face a loss like that, I think you get kind of refocused and you kind of realize, hey, you maybe as a team they might have took some things for granted, or they might have thought they were a little bit better than what they were. So sometimes it takes things like that to come back down to reality. But the key is, we sweep it under the rug, and we came out there, we regrouped, and went out there and executed on Saturday. So I'm hoping that we can have a chance to do the same thing and come out with a win this Saturday.